So, Prime Minister Mark Carney had a press conference today to talk to Canadians about the fact that, hey, federal government kind of realized that food is kind of getting expensive and people are struggling, as is, to pay their bills, their rent, their mortgage, and such. And food is also becoming a struggle too. Now, the problem is that in a free market, in a capitalist market, the government can't exactly step in and force the grocery stores to drop their costs. It's just not possible. You cannot put limits on how much they are allowed to jack up the prices of their food, right? It's all about whether or not the public is willing to pay the prices that determine prices. And since most of Canadian grocery stores are either owned by or under the Loblaws brand or on the Save on Food, like you're either Weston or Pattison, there's not much in terms of relief right now. So instead, what the Carney government decided to do is to try and alleviate from their angle of things of what the government can do. So they announced one of the first things that they're going to do is they're going to provide an increase to the GST rebate. So over the next 5 years, you're going to see a 25% increase in your GST rebate, which can be upwards to $400 for an individual. I don't remember how much it was for families, but $400 for the individual, which really is not a lot, but at least it's something. That's frustrating to me because I don't think, like, in the long term it really helps, but it's better than nothing. And also they said that as of June, they're going to give a one-time 50% increase on the GST since they won't be able to get out in time for January, which already went by, and then the April ones. So they're going to give us more on the June check. So like I said, it's not a lot, but it's something. And then the rest I'm going to have to read because I cannot remember this from memory. Okay, and then so some of the other things that the Carney government is going to do is that the government is setting aside $500 million from the Strategic Response Fund to help businesses address the costs of supply chain disruptions without passing those costs onto the Canadians at the checkout line. So by providing, funds to help them when it comes to supply chain issues, they're not allowed to pass those costs on. So maybe we'll see some reduction. Hopefully, one does not know. For the same purpose, the government will also create $150 million food security fund under the existing regional tariff response initiative for small and medium enterprises and the organizations that support them. So they're going to try and help some of the smaller businesses deal with the strain of the tariff costs. They also said here to lower the cost of fruit production, we are introducing immediate expensing for greenhouse buildings. This allows producers to fully write off greenhouses acquired on or after November 4th, 2025. And that will become available, and that those greenhouses will become available for use before 2030. So they have to buy it after a certain date, but it has to be available for them to use it before 2030. This measure supports increased domestic supply and investment in food production over the medium term. So, as we know, in Canada, we do not have sunny tropical warm weather, year-round. And thus, it makes it difficult for us to grow. Like, you need greenhouses in order to grow, 365 days a year. So this will allow businesses to start buying greenhouses and get compensation back for them, which is good. Though we should have been doing that decades ago. To ease immediate pressures with food banks, the government is providing $20 million to Local Food Infrastructure Fund. This supports food banks and other national, regional, and local organizations to deliver more nutritious food to families in need. I am glad the federal government is doing this, but I honestly think that the provincial governments should be stepping up and providing more support to food banks. Because, for example, Ontario is dealing with a housing homelessness crisis right now. We have had mass amounts of people becoming homeless. Food banks are being used more and more. And Doug Ford is doing nothing. So he should be one of those people that has to fork out money to help support the food banks because he's also helping cause this problem. That's just my opinion. To tackle the root causes of food insecurity, we've developed the National Food Security Strategy, one that strengthens domestic food production and improves access to affordable, nutritious foods. So that's good. This strategy also includes measures to implement unit price labeling and support the work of the Competition Bureau in monitoring and enforcing competition in the market, including food supply chain. So we know that grocery stores have been caught price fixing. So I'm guessing what they're going to do is they're going to start paying attention to who's pricing what, and maybe help Canadians understand or find better pricing in terms of competition. But the thing is that right now, the biggest problem is that if you're in an area where you are limited, where you can only take a bus or you can only walk down the street, people are limited by the grocery store that is near them. And because of this, when we know that like Loblaws, Sobeys, Longo's, Zehrs, Real Canadian Superstore, they are the more expensive grocery stores. So if you are stuck only being near one of them and you can't go anywhere else, you are forced to pay the more expensive prices. If you don't have access to the no frills, to the food basics, heck, even the Metro is cheaper sometimes. But if you are not able to find a cheaper grocery store, like a Freshco or Save On Foods or whatever, if there's nothing, it's not the cheaper grocery store option is not near you, you are forced to pay whatever you need to pay. And I really think the government needs to step in on that and try and help bring more grocery stores, more options to people. Like I used to say before the United States went to hell, that we should have allowed more competition in the from having like grocery stores from the United States come in. To force the Canadian ones to, because it's a monopoly at this point. You've given a monopoly to all of these grocery stores. Of course, they're not going to compete. Of course, they're not going to give you lower prices. So we need to do something in terms of competition in Canada to bring in outside other grocery store companies so that they can provide. I mean, the only US one base that we have for 100% is Walmart. And they're always like middle of the road. They're not really like overly expensive, but they're not extremely cheap either. And I don't want to support US companies anymore. I want competition brought into Canada that forces the Canadian companies to lower their fucking prices if they're going to survive. They've just given them too much of a monopoly. But then again, when you find out that the Conservatives are like buddies with all of these grocery store owners and are basically like keeping competition out of Canada, it's not shocking. It's not shocking that we're not getting any other options. So, do I think all of this is going to make a difference? The problem is that it takes time to tell, right? And a lot of people right now don't have the time. They can't wait. They need help now. So, I really think that the government needs to start talking to the provinces and getting them to do more at the provincial level. When people minimum wages are not going up, when social service like incomes and such are not going up, like in Ontario we have ODSP, we have Ontario Works, aka welfare. Like if you are not increasing those to a livable wage, of course people can't afford shit. So I think the federal government needs to start having conversations with the provincial government and saying, hey, there is only so much that we can do. You guys need to step up and start making changes. Or why are we giving you funding if you're not doing anything proper with it? It's like they give them money for healthcare and then Doug Ford pisses it away on strippers and booze, literally. So time will only tell, but at least they're recognizing something's going on and sort of doing something. I just wish there was an easier answer. Like I see Pierre Poilievre and I see the Conservatives throwing a fit right now because food is so expensive, but nobody is providing ideas on how to solve it. That's the problem, is that there are no good ideas coming out of the mouths of the Conservatives. It's like, if you're so bright, if then you fix it. But you don't see Pierre and any of his buddies coming up with ideas. Even the NDP at one point when they were under Jet, I didn't feel like they had any good ideas either. Like, this is not a simple fix. I think the problem is that we let things go for too long, and now we realize that all of the solutions that we have to this problem, because, we relied so much on suppliers from the United States, that it's going to take years to fix this, decades, probably. So it's not an easy fix, and we're just going to have to wait and see, and some people can't.